Hello, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. This week we're going to be talking a little bit more about the idea of spiritual warfare, which we've been looking at for several weeks. And I specifically wanted to talk about the importance of endurance in spiritual warfare. I've been trying to encourage us with all that God has given us in the armor that He gives to us and how we are equipped. And in this Sunday, we looked at the call to stand, but that is a call that actually requires endurance. Remember, Paul called us to stand against the schemes of Satan, and it pictures close hand-to-hand combat is the actual picture, as one army rushes in and comes into contact with another, and we, that opposing army, are called to stand. And so Paul there calls us to do this, and it requires great endurance. And it does for at least several reasons. First, physical warfare that's pictured there, the analogy that's being made, is one that required great stamina. When the armies actually clashed against one another, the defending army that was standing, you had to press back, you had to resist, and it didn't last for just a couple of seconds. It could last for long periods of time. Warfare required great stamina. Secondly, notice Paul repeats the command to stand 4 separate times in Ephesians 6:11 to 14. And one of those even includes the phrase, then after you've done everything, stand. So Paul's saying you got to stand at the beginning, you got to do the fight, and after everything else is done, you still got to stand so that you're standing firm. So it's a call for endurance and stamina, and that's why there's also the repeated command, which Paul picks up a little bit later in this passage, to watch or to be alert, all of which requires endurance. One of the problems that we can run into sometimes is our mind simply wanders. We kind of lose our edge. And so the call to spiritual warfare is a call for endurance. Now, we really need to understand this today. It's very important, again, for several reasons. First, because one of Satan's main tactics is simply to wear us down. He oftentimes, if he does not win in the initial onslaught, he will continue to come back and continue to come back and continue to come back. He will try from a little bit different angle. C.S. Lewis, in one of his works on the Out of the Silent Planet and the whole space trilogy, actually when they go to Paralandra, he pictures the original temptation, and the Satan character just simply comes back over and over again, repeating the name of the person, trying to distract them, trying to call them. Satan is very patient in attempting to wear us down, and it calls for endurance for us. It's one of the reasons why, for example, in the book of Revelation, we're told, there's a refrain, this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints. We have to continue to endure. Secondly, it's really important for us to understand this because we live in an age uniquely that is addicted to the quick fix. We want answers. We want things that we can hear and apply, and quickly everything changes. And so we want to think, well, I'm learning about spiritual warfare. Can you give me a Bible verse? Can you give me something that I can do? And quickly the warfare will be over. But that's not the nature of what we're doing here. The quick fix applies to very few areas in life, and it certainly does not apply to spiritual warfare. Thirdly, this is important because most of us greatly underestimate the depth and the strength of the strongholds in us. These strongholds are deeply entrenched patterns of thought and speech and behavior. And they are so deeply entrenched within us that they do not give in to a quick fix. They do not give in to our pushback quickly. Instead, they continue to hang around. They continue to labor. They continue to work. Paul picks this up as well in his picture in Romans 7 of continuing indwelling sin and how pervasive it is and how strong it is. We greatly underestimate the power of that sin and the power and the depth of the strongholds that are there in us and what's going to be required for us to overcome them. And one of the things that's required is endurance and continuing to draw our strength from the Lord, continuing to walk the way He calls, continuing to engage in spiritual warfare. And so if we don't do this, what happens is we begin the fight and then we simply give up too quickly. What we're doing would actually work. As James promises, if we resist the devil, he will flee from us. but he does not say resist him for a moment or a day and he will flee. We have to continue the resistance until he in fact does. So I want to encourage you this week as you're learning about and engaging in spiritual warfare, don't give in to the temptation to give up too quickly. Continue to look to Jesus. Continue to walk closely to him. Continue to draw strength from him, to meditate on his word, to learn who we are in Christ, to recognize all that God has given to us, to continue to preach the gospel to ourselves, to continue in short order to stand and resist the enemy and know that Satan will flee if we in fact do not give up. So I hope this is helpful to you. I look forward to all of us gathering again. This weekend we're going to be hearing from Lee Short, kind of dispatches from the battlefront, so to speak, with the work that's going on in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. And remember, we're going to have a love offering, and also afterwards we're going to be taking time to sit down and have a meal together to build up and encourage one another. I hope you get to make it, and I look forward to seeing you then. God bless.